Have you ever seen a grasshopper, the symbol of sun-scorched, dry fields, suddenly leap into a cool pond as if it's going for a swim? It may sound like something out of a fairy tale, but it's a chilling reality in nature. The grasshopper doesn't want to do this. It's being controlled, and the creature controlling it isn't a larger animal, but a tiny being, the size of a hair. This isn't a science fiction story. It's the truth, and a clear example of one of the most terrifying phenomena in nature: parasitic behavior control. In the natural world, there is a group of creatures that do not hunt for food or labor to survive. Instead, they occupy the body of another, and what's even more terrifying, they control the will of their host. The species we are about to explore, Spinochordodes tellinii, is a prime example. They are a type of worm, thin as a thread, but can grow up to 30 centimeters in length. In their larval stage, they do not live in water but hide inside the bodies of insects like grasshoppers or crickets. Through contaminated food or environments polluted with eggs, these larvae invade the host's body and begin a process of sophisticated biological manipulation. What happens after the worm invades? First, it hides inside the host's body, using the nutrients from the grasshopper's blood and tissues to grow. This stage can last for several weeks, or even months. Then, one day, when it matures, the worm larva needs to leave the host's body and head into the water, where it can reproduce. But the problem is, grasshoppers can't swim and are afraid of water. How can a creature afraid of water take the parasite into the pond? The answer is, the grasshopper is neurologically manipulated by the worm. The worm releases chemicals, similar to hormones or neurotransmitters, to alter the host's behavior. Research by French scientists in the early 2000s showed that Spinochordodes tellinii affects the genes that control the grasshopper's fear response and spatial awareness. It makes the grasshopper love water. The result? The grasshopper throws itself into the water, as if searching for an ideal place to hide, or worse, as if hypnotized. When the grasshopper comes into contact with water, the worm will break through the body tissue and crawl out. The typical image is a long, twisting brown thread, crawling out from the body of the unfortunate creature. The worm then lives independently in the water, searching for a mate and reproducing. As for the grasshopper, it has only two possible outcomes. Either it gets eaten by a fish, or it drowns. This is a harsh example of how, in nature, willpower doesn't always belong to oneself. The frightening thing is that Spinochordodes tellinii is not unique. There are countless other parasitic species in the world capable of controlling their hosts. Cordyceps unilateralis, a fungus that forces ants to climb high and latch onto leaves to die, allowing the fungus to grow from their carcasses. Toxoplasma gondii, a parasitic organism in cats that can cause mice to lose their instinctive fear of cats, making them easy prey and helping the parasite's life cycle continue. The common thread here is, the host no longer has control over its own fate. In 2015, a research team at the University of Pisa, Italy, conducted a field observation. They tracked 45 grasshoppers in a riparian forest area. Among them, 17 showed unusual behavior, constantly seeking water. When they dissected the bodies, all 17 contained Spinochordodes tellinii worms. Notably, The scientists observed that when the worm detached from the body, the grasshopper immediately became motionless, as if it had lost all signs of life. This result shows that the presence of the worm not only takes over the physical body but also possesses the behavior and life force of the host. We often think of ourselves as in control of our own actions. However, the story of the grasshopper and the hairworm raises a deeper question. In modern society, what might be parasitizing our minds? Controlling our behaviors without our knowledge? Could it be fake information circulating on social media? Is it toxic habits that we can't seem to break free from? Are there irrational fears that prevent us from moving forward? Nature teaches us a lesson. There are invisible agents that can influence your thoughts and actions without you even realizing it. Understanding this not only helps you appreciate the freedom you possess but also teaches you how to protect it from the parasites of the modern world. The mysterious and strange truths you haven't heard, Part 2. If you're someone who loves to explore the strange mysteries of nature, you probably can't miss this adorable little parasite. Yes, I'm joking. And I'm talking about Cymothoa exigua, also known as the tongue-eating louse. This isn't just an ordinary parasite. Cymothoa exigua is a perfect example of Mother Nature's creativity in survival, showing us just how far nature's ingenuity can go. And if you think you've seen all the oddities nature has to offer, wait, you haven't seen anything yet when it comes to Cymothoa. First, can you imagine what this parasite looks like? Picture a tiny creature, only 8 to 29 millimeters long, but capable of entering a fish's body in a way that will make you wonder. Surely, someone has to be responsible for this. The process of Cymothoa exigua really seems like a sci-fi movie plot. The male attaches itself to the fish's lower gill arch, while the female borrows the fish's tongue to make it her home. Yes, you heard that right, the fish's tongue. Not only does Cymothoa live there, but it also replaces the fish's tongue so it can continue feeding on the fish's blood and mucus. The fish's tongue gradually shrinks from lack of blood. Sounds pretty tragic, right? Eventually being discarded to make way for Cymothoa. Now, imagine the fish you love, swimming along, suddenly unable to move its tongue. It must feel like someone's controlling it. Just like when you feel like everything in your life is just a joke played by fate. But it seems like the fish has no choice but to swim. The fish's new life, is it a living fish or a mutant, thanks to Cymothoa? Now, let's move on to a crucial question. Cymothoa exigua is a terrifying parasite. But what happens after it replaces the fish's tongue? Surely, it doesn't just rest and wait for the fish to die. Right? When the fish finally stops breathing, something we certainly don't wish for, Cymothoa will detach from the fish's body. You might think it's free from the poor fish. But have you ever wondered what Cymothoa does next? Do they open a cafe and continue their life as if nothing happened? We don't know for sure. But from what we do know, Cymothoa doesn't have to worry about working, because they can keep going even without the fish's tongue. It seems that nature is never short of surprises. Just when you think things have gotten weird enough, Cymothoa exigua pushes the limits even further. The male Cymothoa can transform into a female once it reaches about 10 millimeters in length. This is no fairy tale. In fact, Cymothoa has the ability to change its sex when necessary, making it easier for them to maintain their species and their environment. Many of us might think, thank you, nature. Now I understand why humans need to be flexible in relationships too. If you've ever sat and thought about animals that can change sex to survive, Cymothoa exigua is just one of many remarkable examples. The way this species undergoes such a transformation not only shows its ability to adapt, but also demonstrates that sometimes change is the key to survival. So, after all these crazy stories about Cymothoa exigua, what can we learn from them? One important lesson we can take away is this: adaptability is the key to survival. Even as a parasite, Cymothoa exigua not only survives but thrives because of its ability to change, adapt, and evolve in ways that are almost unimaginable. You can draw inspiration from Cymothoa and view life from a different perspective. Sometimes, instead of fighting every change in life, we should learn how to adapt and turn every challenge into an opportunity. Because when life hands you a chance, don't hesitate to turn your tongue into a parasite and use it to survive. There are certain animals that we think we know everything about. But in reality, there are still many strange things waiting to be discovered. And just like these unique parasites, you too can uncover hidden abilities within yourself. All we need is to be ready to change, adapt, and live in our own unique way, just like Cymothoa exigua is doing. If you find this video interesting and thought-provoking, share it with your friends. And don't forget, always be aware of the things that control you, even if they are as small as a single strand of hair. This is the channel discovering unbelievable but true mysteries, where science is not just knowledge, but the strange story of life itself.